Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Tel Aviv. Coming up in today's newscast, Israel introduces a revolutionary new rocket warning system. A historical discovery in Israel unveils a history of glass, and you won't believe how you can spend your Passover in Jerusalem. I'm Natasha Kirchak here with the latest news in Israel. For many Israelis living on the border of Gaza, sporadic rocket fire from the Gaza Strip has been a dangerous reality for years. Now it looks like residents in the area can start feeling a little safer because the Israeli Home Front Command has just introduced a new radar warning system that will give Israelis a 15-second head start to take shelter from incoming shells.
15 seconds might not sound like a lot of time to find safety, but it's a huge improvement from Israel's current alert system. The Iron Dome radar warns of incoming rockets and gives communities time to find shelter, but it has proved much less effective when it comes to combating short-range shells. Residents often have little to no warning of mortar shell attacks, and the results can be devastating. During Israel's war with Hamas in 2014, rockets and mortars proved to be one of the deadliest means of attack, claiming the lives of 14 people in just 1 week. Hamas lobbed hundreds of rockets and mortars at Israeli cities and towns. And while the area has been relatively calm since the end of the war, sporadic attacks are still an ongoing issue. The Israeli Home Front Command began developing the new radar warning system after the 2014 war, and it's cost about $132 million to create. Israelis living in communities along the Gaza border are welcoming the new system, and say having 15 seconds of time to find shelter could help save lives.
Russia has reportedly just begun delivering one of the most advanced defense systems in the world to Iran, and Israel is furious. The S-300 missile defense system could be used to protect Iran from long-range attacks, but it could also prevent Israel from potentially striking the country's nuclear facilities.
On Monday, the Iranian Foreign Ministry announced that Russia has begun delivering the S-300 system to Iran, but the sale of the defense system has been imminent since the signing of the nuclear deal last year. A Russian website has now confirmed the sale, to Israel's dismay. The Russian-made missile defense system offers Iran long-range protection against airplanes and missiles, and in 2010, Russia froze a deal to supply the system to Iran because of UN sanctions. Now that Iran has promised to curb its nuclear program, international sanctions have been lifted against the country, and Russia has gone forward with the sale. Israel has long been against providing Iran with this system, which analysts claim could stop Israel from potentially striking Tehran's nuclear facilities. The Israeli Air Force has been training in case Israel will be forced to carry out strikes on facilities in Syria or Iran that are defended by the S-300 system. While the missile defense system poses a big challenge to Israel, Israeli officials still claim they can combat it.
Israel has long been accusing the United Nations of anti-Israel bias, but it's not often that such bias can be factually proven. Now, a new report claims that the UN is responsible for coordinating and funding a network of anti-Israel organizations. Rachel Hirschfeld is here with us from the organization NGO Monitor, and she has a scoop. Thanks for coming in.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So, NGO Monitor is responsible for this report. Can you tell us about what your organization does?
Sure, absolutely. NGO Monitor is an independent, nonpartisan research organization that tracks the funding and political advocacy of non-governmental organizations that exploit that exploit their mandate of human rights in order to demonize Israel in the international arena.
Okay, so that's a complicated goal that you guys have here. So what in this report have you authored tells us about this issue?
Okay, so the report focuses on the UN's Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs in what it refers to as the occupied Palestinian territories. Now, this body coordinates international government funding to some of the most highly biased and politicized NGOs active in the Arab-Israeli conflict, including those that promote boycotts, divestments, and sanctions, as well as political warfare campaigns against Israel in the international arena. In 2016 alone, OCHA requested $571 million from international government donors to provide to NGOs that are highly active in these campaigns. $571 million. That is a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
Yeah. The NGOs include, some of the appealing NGOs include the Norwegian Refugee Council, Islamic Relief Worldwide, Palestinian Center for Human Rights, as well as a number of others. Islamic Relief Worldwide was banned from operating in the West Bank due to its alleged role in funneling funds to Hamas, while the Norwegian Refugee Council has funded hundreds of lawsuits in Israeli courts in an effort to disrupt the Israeli judicial system.
So what prompted you to investigate OCHA?
We've always known that they've been active in this area, but I think that there was a lack of real research regarding, their role and how exactly they fit into the larger picture. And what we found is, in addition to coordinating the international government support, they also publish numerous reports, fact sheets, and informational databases repeating, parroting false and unverifiable NGO claims, which is highly problematic because as a UN body, they're given credibility, and essentially they're seeking to give credence and credibility to highly misleading claims.
So who's behind this? Where are they getting the funds to coordinate towards all these anti-Israel organizations?
Right, so the funding is coming mostly from European governments. The EU, Sweden, Switzerland, Norway are some of the main ones. And they provide a lot of money.
Right, you said a lot of this funding is actually coming from governments
Exactly.
themselves.
So OCHA acts as the coordinator. It just kind of like makes the process smoother and, kind of like facilitates this government support to these NGOs and then repeats their claims.
So this might seem like a stupid question to ask, but what do you think the goal behind these actions are?
I think that there is a clear campaign being waged in the international arena to demonize, delegitimize, and isolate Israel. And this report is, I think, very significant. It is only the tip of the iceberg, but it shows where the money is coming from, who is coordinating the funding, where the funding is going, these NGOs who are implementing the funding and, using it to accuse Israel of war crimes, violations of international law, and many others in the international...
What is this rooted in, though? Why is this happening? Where does it come from?
I think it's just part of the broader campaign to falsify history, in essence, to promote an agenda based solely on the Palestinian narrative of victimization and sole Israeli aggression. Another thing that OCHA does actually is it organizes thematic clusters, which bring together NGOs, UN representatives, and government donors in specific fields of, like in armed conflict, shelter, water, in various during the 2014 war, the protection cluster, which is one of the most problematic clusters, 3 NGOs were tasked with providing the protection cluster with information regarding Palestinian casualty claims. These NGOs included B'Tselem, Palestinian Center for Human Rights, and Al-Mazan. As we've documented in many reports, these NGOs all lack the necessary military and legal expertise, as well as research methodology to draw any meaningful conclusions. In fact, during the war, B'Tselem posted a note on its website saying that its data might not be accurate, but that it's going to publish this information anyway. Then OCHA goes and repeats this information, which is then given the UN stamp of approval.
Right. So,
and it's repeated in an effort
to,
it's repeated in an effort to demonize Israel in the international arena.
So, here's our final question. What actions, need to be taken to combat this issue?
I think that the public needs to be aware of, the next time they hear a figure or number on the news or they hear a claim, to ask themselves where this information is coming from and if there's a specific agenda behind the information that they're being provided.
Well, thank you so much for coming in. It's
Thank
extremely
you.
interesting to hear about
Thank
this.
you.
And hopefully we'll have you back again soon.
Thank you very much.
As we just heard, it may be rare that the United Nations has anything positive to say about Israel. But it turns out a new UN report is actually praising Israel for its efforts to fight corruption.
The UN Convention Against Corruption says Israel gets high marks for its regulatory system, enforcement, and international cooperation. The UN claims Israel has established a comprehensive and coherent framework on international cooperation in criminal matters. It's also commending the Jewish state for prioritizing the battle against corruption in the government. The report says Israel provides expert knowledge and assistance to foreign law enforcement agencies through the exchange of intelligence and legal assistance. And if you've ever wondered why so many Israeli government officials are prosecuted for crimes, the UN says it's because Israel's good at its job. In fact, the UN is complimenting Israel on its high number of prosecutions of ministers and Knesset members, along with its reports against wrongdoing by the state controller and its protection of whistleblowers. Justice Minister Ayelet Shaked says the report is a strong positive evaluation that puts Israel in a place of global leadership in the field of law enforcement.
If you've ever dreamed of going on an adventure like Indiana Jones, you're in for a treat. Get your hiking boots ready because this year during Passover, tourists can literally rappel down the old city walls.
Thousands of Israelis and international tourists come to Jerusalem each year for Passover. And this year, Jerusalem has a few surprises in store. Jerusalem officials have teamed up to create a bunch of new attractions for visitors during the holiday season, including tours on top of the old city walls for a bird's eye view of Jerusalem and an interactive display showing how the old city walls were built. And for those of you looking for something out of the ordinary to do, how about the chance to rappel down the old city's walls? If you're worried about security or scared of damaging the historical city, don't worry, that's already been thought of. Those who want to rappel will have to wear a special type of harness that's designed to keep them safe while protecting the archaeological sites. The activity is a little challenging since the walls are fairly high, so children will only be allowed to participate if they're 9 years old or above. There will be 2 different tour tracks that visitors can take, a northern one and a southern one. So if you're looking for an interactive experience that will teach you some history, you only need to look as far as the old city walls this Passover season.
It's no surprise that another important historical find has been made in Israel, and this time it reveals a ton about Israel's glass production in the ancient world.
The oldest glass kilns in Israel have been found near Mount Carmel, and they date all the way back to the late Roman period. The kilns are estimated to be 1,600 years old, and they show that the region was a major glass producer in the ancient world.
תגלית חשובה ומדהימה, בית המלאכה העתיק ביותר שהתגלה עד כה בארץ ישראל.
Archaeologists are saying the glass kilns are a really important discovery because they reveal a lot of Israel's commercial past. The Valley of Akko is known for its high-quality sand, and it turns out that sand was likely used to manufacture glass.
We are excavating a raw glass production site. We discover here the remains of furnaces for the production of glass from its raw ingredients, sand and natron, the soda natron, which was brought from Egypt. The sand was taken from the Akko Bay. It's the best sand for the production of glass. We have the fuel from the Carmel Mountain and from this area.
Yael Gorin-Rosen is the head curator for the Israel Antiquities Authority Glass Department, and she says the find solves a lot of questions that archaeologists have been pondering for years. It turns out glass from the region has been found in shipwrecks in the Mediterranean and at sites in Europe for years, but it was never known where the glass came from. This finding shows that the raw material to produce the glassware was made in Israel, and it was shipped all over the Roman Empire.
Here we're standing in one of the glass-making centres of the ancient world. We know now that these were probably supplying glass around the world in the 4th century AD or thereabouts. And this work is really important for us to understand the distribution and the occurrence of glass all over the ancient world because it was being exported everywhere.
And that's not all. It turns out the glass made in Israel was so well known that the Roman Empire Diocletian made a price regulation in the 4th century that referred to Judean glass from the land of Israel, which was a light green color and less expensive than Egyptian glass. Until now, no one knew where the glass production centers were. But it looks like this is one historical mystery that has finally been solved. And for those who want to see the glass, it will be displayed in a few months at the Carmel Zvulun Regional High School.
It's fantastic. I've waited 20 years to see it. Since the excavations at Bet Eliezer of the later furnaces, I've been waiting to see where the Romans made their glass.
And now for our Hebrew word of the day. Passover is just around the corner and it's time to celebrate freedom from Egypt and from work. So today's word is freedom, which is chofesh or cherut. You're probably wondering what the difference is between both words. Chofesh refers to the freedom to do what you like, while cherut refers to the freedom to do what you should. On Passover, when the Israelites were freed from Egypt, they had the free choice to bind themselves to God, which the Torah refers to as a freedom with a purpose. Now, chofesh is more like the liberation to do whatever you want, whenever you want, and with whomever you want. That's why Israelis use the word interchangeably with vacation. If an Israeli says, "Ani lokachat chofesh," they're basically saying they're taking a break from life. They could be taking off a couple of days from work or be heading to the Bahamas for a month. But the bottom line is they're claiming some freedom from the daily grind. So with Passover just a few days away, you should start considering taking some chofesh, because a relaxing break will really help you get into the holiday spirit. On that note, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Get your umbrella ready because tomorrow is supposed to be stormy with a high of 66 degrees. The thunderstorms are expected to continue into Wednesday, but the temperature will go up to 69. All right, everybody, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.78 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at ILTV.tv, and don't forget to check out our evening update every night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you tonight.